Long, long ago, in a beautiful green forest, lived a little fox named Rudzik. He had a fluffy golden red tail and bright, curious eyes. His fur shimmered in the sunlight like flames, and his black nose was always moist and ready to sniff new scents. Rudzik lived in a cozy burrow under an old, sprawling oak tree with his mother and father. Rudzik's den was special. It had several chambers, one serving as a bedroom, another as a dining room, and a third as a living room where the fox family spent time together, sharing stories about their forest adventures. The walls of the burrow were lined with soft moss and leaves, making it always warm and cozy. One sunny morning, when birds were chirping merrily on the branches and butterflies were dancing in the air, Rudzik came out of his burrow and stretched lazily. Sunbeams caressed his fur, and the fresh forest scent filled his nostrils. "Mom! Dad!" he called excitedly, running back into the burrow. "Can I go for a walk in the forest today?" "Please, please." Mama Fox, who was preparing breakfast with forest berries and nuts, stroked his head tenderly and said, "Of course, darling. But remember not to wander too far and come back before sunset. And make sure you eat your breakfast first." Papa Fox, who was reading the morning leaf newspaper, added with a smile, "And be careful, son. The forest is beautiful, but can sometimes be dangerous. Remember everything we taught you." Rudzik nodded and promised, "I'll be careful, I promise. And I'll be back before sunset." After eating a delicious breakfast and saying goodbye to his parents, Rudzik set out on his first solo adventure through the forest. His heart was beating fast with excitement, and his eyes opened wide at every new sight. First, he met a little bunny who was hopping happily in a meadow full of colorful flowers. The bunny had soft gray fur and long ears that moved funny when he listened to forest sounds. "Hello," called Rudzik, waving his paw. "I'm Rudzik. What's your name?" The bunny stopped and answered with a smile. "Hi, Rudzik. I'm Kicuś. How nice to meet you. Would you like to play with me?" "Sure," Rudzik responded enthusiastically. "What shall we play?" Kicuś hopped joyfully. "How about hide and seek? I know great hiding spots in this part of the forest." And so Rudzik and Kicuś played hide and seek, using every bush, every tree, and every pile of leaves as a hiding place. They laughed loudly, and their laughter echoed through the entire forest, making even the birds stop to listen to this joyful melody. After playing, tired but happy, they sat on the soft grass to rest. "That was awesome," said Rudzik, panting slightly. "I've never had so much fun before." Kicuś nodded. "Me neither. It's nice to have a new friend. You know what? I'll show you my favorite place in the forest." Curious, Rudzik followed Kicuś. They went through thick bushes, jumped over a small stream, until they reached a beautiful hidden clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a huge old tree stump, and around it grew the most beautiful and largest berries Rudzik had ever seen. "Wow!" sighed Rudzik in amazement. "What a beautiful place!" Kicuś smiled broadly. "This is my secret berry garden. I've never told anyone about it, but I'll show you because you're my friend." Rudzik felt warmth in his heart. He knew that friendship was something very precious, and he was grateful that Kicuś trusted him. The bunny and the fox spent some time eating juicy berries and talking about their families and favorite games. When it was time to say goodbye, Rudzik promised to keep Kicuś's secret and that they would meet again soon. Rudzik continued deeper into the forest, feeling happy and full of energy after meeting his new friend. He walked along a narrow path, admiring colorful flowers and listening to birdsong. Suddenly, he heard quiet sobbing coming from behind the bushes. Curious but also a bit worried, Rudzik carefully peeked behind the bushes. There he saw a little squirrel sitting on the ground and crying. Her red fur was disheveled, and her fluffy tail hung sadly. "Hey, what's wrong?" asked Rudzik caringly, coming closer. The squirrel lifted her head and whispered through tears, "I'm lost. I can't find my way to my treehouse. I'm so far from home, and I'm afraid I'll never get back." Rudzik felt his heart squeeze with sympathy. He knew what it was like to be afraid of not finding your way home. "Don't worry," he said gently. "I'll help you find your home. Together we'll surely find it. What's your name?" "I'm Orzeszka," replied the squirrel, wiping tears with her paw. "Nice to meet you, Orzeszka. I'm Rudzik," the fox introduced himself. "Don't be afraid. I'm here to help you. Tell me what your home and the area look like. Maybe together we can find it." Orzeszka sniffled and started describing. "My home is in a big old oak tree. It has a red bark and star-shaped leaves. Next to it grows a raspberry bush, and there's a small stream nearby." Rudzik listened carefully, trying to remember every detail. "Good, that's something," he said with a smile. "Come on, together we'll surely find your home." And so Rudzik and Orzeszka set off through the forest together. Rudzik comforted the squirrel with cheerful stories about his morning adventure with Kicuś, and Orzeszka gradually stopped crying. Along the way, they met many forest animals. Rudzik, who turned out to be very sociable, asked everyone if they had seen an oak tree matching Orzeszka's description. First, they met an old hedgehog carrying an apple on his back. "Good morning, Mr. Hedgehog," called Rudzik. "Have you seen a large oak tree with red bark and star-shaped leaves?" The hedgehog scratched his nose and answered, I'm not sure, but try going east. There are more old trees there." They thanked the hedgehog and headed in the indicated direction. Along the way, they met a family of owls who were just waking up from sleep. "Excuse me for disturbing you," Rudzik said politely. "Does any of you know where there's a big oak tree with red bark? Our friend Orzeszka has lost her home." The youngest owlet blinked her big eyes and said, "Hoo! I think I saw such a tree when I was flying last night. It should be nearby, behind a big moss-covered boulder." Rudzik and Orzeszka thanked the owls and continued on. They walked through dense forest, pushing through thickets and jumping over small streams. Orzeszka started recognizing some places. "Oh, that stone!" she suddenly exclaimed. "I remember it! I often sunbathed on it." Rudzik felt his heart speed up with excitement. "That's great! We're on the right track." And indeed, after a while, they reached a great oak tree. Orzeszka jumped with joy. "This is it! This is my home!" she called happily, hugging the tree trunk. Rudzik smiled broadly, happy that he could help his new friend. He felt warmth in his heart seeing Orzeszka's joy. "Thank you, Rudzik," said Orzeszka, hugging him tightly. "You're a very kind and helpful fox. Without you, I would never have found my way home." "It's nothing," replied Rudzik modestly. "I'm glad I could help. Friends should always help each other." Orzeszka invited Rudzik to her treehouse for a small celebration of her happy return. She treated him to nuts and seeds she had collected throughout the summer. Rudzik was delighted. He had never been in a treehouse before. After saying goodbye to Orzeszka and promising to visit her soon, Rudzik continued on his way. The forest was getting denser, and the trees were getting taller. The sun was slowly beginning to set, casting long shadows on the forest path. Suddenly, Rudzik heard a strange sound coming from afar. It sounded like music, but not ordinary music as he knew it. This was delicate, as if woven from the rustle of leaves and birdsong, yet full of magic and mystery. Curious, he went in the direction the sound was coming from. And then, to his amazement, he saw something that made his eyes widen with wonder and disbelief. In a small clearing, surrounded by mushrooms of various colors and shapes, tiny, glowing creatures were dancing. They had transparent wings that shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow, and their bodies emanated a gentle, colorful light. Each creature glowed a different color. There were ones red like raspberries, blue like forget-me-nots, yellow like sunflowers, and purple like heather. "Wow!" whispered Rudzik in amazement, unable to take his eyes off this magical sight. "What are these?" One of the creatures, a tiny being glowing with a gentle pink light, noticed him and flew closer. Its wings buzzed quietly, making a sound similar to a delicate bell. Hello, little fox, it said in a melodious voice that sounded like a whisper of wind in the leaves. We are forest fairies, and who are you? Rudzik, enchanted by this sight, barely found his voice to introduce himself. I'm Rudzik. I live in a burrow under an old oak tree nearby. I've never seen forest fairies before. I didn't know you really existed. The fairy giggled, and her laughter sounded like delicate silver bells. That's because we only show ourselves to those who have pure and good hearts. And you, Rudzik, have a very good heart. We saw how you helped your new friends today. Rudzik felt his cheeks grow warm with joy and pride. Did you really see me? He asked in disbelief. Of course, replied the fairy. We, forest fairies, see everything that happens in our forest. We are its guardians and caretakers. And today you showed that you are a true friend of the forest and its inhabitants. Would you like to play with us? Asked another fairy, glowing with blue light. Rudzik nodded enthusiastically. I'd love to, but can I dance like you? The fairies laughed joyfully. Don't worry, said the pink fairy. Our music will make everyone able to dance. And indeed, as soon as Rudzik joined the fairies' circle, he felt his paws start moving on their own to the rhythm of the magical music. He felt as light as a feather and happier than ever before. Rudzik twirled and jumped, and his red tail waved behind him like a flaming flag. The fairies danced around him, leaving trails of colored light behind them. They sang beautiful songs about friendship, courage, and kindness, and Rudzik felt his heart filling with joy and love for the whole world. At one point, the pink fairy approached Rudzik and said, We have a surprise for you, Rudzik. Close your eyes and think of something you'd really like to see. Rudzik closed his eyes and thought about stars. He had always been fascinated by those twinkling points in the night sky, but he rarely had a chance to see them because he usually slept at night in his cozy burrow. When he opened his eyes, he gasped. The entire clearing was covered with thousands of fireflies floating in the air, creating an image of the night sky full of stars. It was magical and beautiful. This is amazing, exclaimed Rudzik with delight. Thank you, the fairies smiled, pleased with the little fox's joy. When the fun was over and the fireflies slowly began to disperse through the forest, the fairy queen, the tallest of them, with golden wings and a crown of flowers, approached Rudzik. Thank you for the wonderful fun, Rudzik, she said in a gentle voice. For your good heart and pure soul, we want to give you a special gift. She touched the tip of his nose with her small wand, and a gentle golden light appeared around Rudzik. From now on, said the queen, you will always be able to find your way home, no matter how far you wander. This light in your heart will be your guide. But that's not all. You also receive the gift of understanding the speech of all forest creatures. Use this power wisely to help and protect the forest and its inhabitants. Rudzik was so moved that for a moment he couldn't find words. Finally, he choked out, Thank you very much. I promise I'll use this gift to help others and protect our forest. Rudzik thanked the fairies for their wonderful present and said goodbye to them, promising that their secret would be safe. He knew that this meeting would forever change his life. The sun was already starting to set, painting the sky with beautiful shades of pink and gold. Rudzik knew it was time to go home. Although the forest was now darker and more mysterious, Rudzik wasn't afraid. He felt warmth in his heart and knew he would find his way. On his way back, Rudzik had a chance to try out his new gift. As he passed by an old rotting trunk, he heard quiet squeaks. He looked inside and saw a family of small mice who were afraid to come out because a large black cat was lurking nearby. Don't be afraid, Rudzik said to the mice. I'll help you. Rudzik approached the cat and said, Hey friend. I know you're hungry, but these mice have small children. Maybe instead, I can show you a place where there are lots of delicious berries. To Rudzik's surprise, the cat answered in a human voice. Really? I would be very grateful. These mice are too skinny anyway. Rudzik led the cat to the secret berry garden that Kicuś had shown him, hoping his friend would forgive him, and then returned to the mice to tell them the coast was clear. "Thank you, little fox," squeaked the mice. "You're our hero." Rudzik felt happy that he could help. He knew that the gift from the fairies was a great responsibility, but also a great joy. Finally, guided by the magical light in his heart, Rudzik easily found his way back to his burrow under the old oak tree. It was almost evening, and the first stars had appeared in the sky. "Mom! Dad! I'm back!" he called happily, running inside. His parents welcomed him with relief and joy. "I was worried about you, son," said Papa Fox, hugging Rudzik. "I was just thinking I'd have to go look for you." "I'm sorry I'm late," said Rudzik, "but I had so many amazing adventures." "Tell us about your adventure, darling," asked Mama, serving Rudzik a bowl of delicious forest mushroom soup. And so Rudzik told them about everything he had experienced, about playing with Kicuś the bunny, about helping Orzeszka the squirrel, about saving the mice from the cat, and about the magical meeting with the forest fairies, though he kept that last one as his sweet secret. Papa Fox stroked his head and said proudly, "I'm very proud of you, Rudzik. You showed today that you have a good heart and know how to help others. Those are the most important traits you can have," Mama Fox added with a smile. "And remember, darling, that true magic lies in kindness and goodwill toward others. They make the world more beautiful." Rudzik nodded, feeling his heart fill with warmth and love. He knew that today he had learned something very important, that helping others and being good is the greatest treasure we can have. And so, tired but happy, Rudzik fell asleep in his cozy bed, dreaming of more adventures waiting for him in the magical forest. Because he knew now that with a good heart and courage, you can overcome any obstacle and experience the most wonderful adventures. From that day on, Rudzik often set out on new expeditions through the forest. He always remembered to help others and be kind to all creatures he met on his way. Thanks to the gift from the fairies, he could talk to all animals in the forest, helping them solve problems and disputes. One day, he helped a beaver family repair their dam, which had been damaged by a spring flood. Another time, he comforted a baby deer who had lost its mother and helped them find each other. And when a herd of wild boars wanted to destroy the birds' nests in search of food, the Rudzik convinced them to look for acorns in another part of the forest instead. Over time, the Rudzik became known throughout the forest as a friend of all animals, always ready to help and play. Animals came to him for advice and help, and he always tried to find the best solution for everyone. His adventures became a legend, told by parents to their children, teaching them about the value of friendship, courage, and kindness. And the magical light in Robin's heart shone brighter and brighter with each good deed, always reminding him of the power of love and friendship. Because, as the old forest proverb says, whoever has a good heart will find friends even in the deepest forest. And so the little fox, Rudzik, lived happily ever after, enjoying every day full of new adventures and opportunities to help others. And his story reminds us all that true magic lies in the kindness of our hearts and the way we treat others. If you liked the cartoon, don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and visit again.